another live session. We're going to speak about the Fed, about the progress with our situation right now, what we are doing. I'm going to give you some updating on the market side. Gitai will speak about the product, and we're going to do some EMA because we have still a question that we don't answer them from the last week.
I will start with a quick update about the product. We are now taking care of the basic flow. We're receiving good feedback from participations, from the Fed's holders. They are successfully doing the swap, the modify liquidity, and the print. We had a bug with the print, and we fixed it. It's now working, and the users succeeding to print FUSD versus FB USD, which is the stabilization token. So everything in the basic flow is working well. What we are still working on regarding that is we call it the drop down. If you doing those actions on Uniswap, you see the approvals and the progress of the approvals when you are doing it, and we want it to look and feel the same because with modified liquidity, for instance, there are 3 or 4 approvals. So we got feedback about it, and we want to make it as smooth as possible and to communicate in the UX for the participations that they can see it, exactly right. So this is one thing. The other thing that we also want to improve in the product, we are pushing it forward, as I mentioned in the group, is the score page. We are starting to build a more detailed score with the points. So for those who don't know, we have the sequential access mechanism, turn-based mechanism. We are distributing points, Fed's points, according to the action that the participation are doing. And now it is only one single number that you can see that accumulate during the time. But we want to show for each round and each week the point distributing according to the progress. So this is another thing that we are pushing forward.
Gitai, can you add a little bit about what we are doing last week with the OSA, with the liquidity that we are working?
Sure. This is not a product update, but it's a cooperation update that we are very proud of. We are part of OSA association. It's a stablecoin association with a few partners, relatively big partners like Frex and Level and more stablecoins. The purpose is to cooperate together liquidity-wise and also marketing to push forward together and establish a lot of results together with stablecoins adoption, and particularly versus the USDC and USDT, because when you are small, it's harder to achieve demand. So this is something that we joined, I think, 3 weeks ago, and this week we already have a working group, and it's moving forward very nicely, and we have very nice plans about it. Yeah, I don't want to promise anything right now, but I will update later on.
I really like that we cooperate in the space because, as Gitai mentioned, we understand, and when I say we, I speak about stablecoin project. We understand that we are so early in the space, so we can work together to do distribution on marketing, about liquidity and infrastructure. I really like that we can work together and not to fight each other, and it's really help us. Tomorrow we have a meeting on marketing, so in the next live I will update about that.
Yeah. By the way, I think one of the huge benefit that we can have through the association is to have a buying power and more attractive deals that we can do. Let's say with a website and a project like Shopping.io, we can have few stable coins listing together in an e-commerce website, and then the association will win from one hand with a good price, and the other side can win and gain from having few listing partners at once. So this is not something that we spoke about specifically yet, but an idea that we can also push forward. So this is an example, because Arbel is here, I'm mentioning it. And I also have 2 points now that I wrote to myself to speak about. One is the research and one is the DAO. But before I'm diving into it, Ronnie or Bell, do you have questions about the Feds that you want me to answer, or no?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
Um, it's a bit early for the project, maybe to have an answer for this question, but I'll still ask it. What's your
Please
vision,
go ahead.
let's say, for this project? How you see it going in a year, in 2 years, if everything goes well? And
Yeah,
yeah, I guess what's the vision?
yeah. So thank you for the question. The vision question is the most important and great to answer. So, and also it will help me to go to my points that I want to speak about, which is the research and the DAO. But directly to your question, we're doing the Feds because we believe it can be the biggest stablecoin out there, and not only stablecoin, it can be the biggest uh, coin derivative, um, the biggest coin derivative issuing mechanism out there. So let's focus for 1 second about FUSD and stablecoin. How come I say something so ambitious as to be the biggest stablecoin? So there are 2 parts to establish that moving forward. The first one, to be the biggest decentralized stablecoin. And the second part is to be the biggest stablecoins, period. So let's start from to be the biggest decentralized stablecoin, which is the easier part, but still a very hard part, right? So which one is the biggest decentralized stablecoin? It's MakerDAO and Sky. And this structure is based on a vault, or what called before CDP, which became vault, and liquidation. In order to participate in the decentralized stablecoin mechanism that exists today, you need to put more collateral than what you have, like 150% and above in collateral. Let's say in order to print or mint Sky. This is very inefficient process. It's only makes sense for relatively small group of users and small and use cases. Why should you do such a thing to lock up more money to issue less money? And the reason for that can be a little bit leverage or taxing issue. So this is the cases, but it's very narrow. And this is why it's only 10 billion, more or less, of market size, right? And what we do in the Feds is the opposite. You need to lock less collateral in order to print more FUSD. So it's much more efficient, and it makes sense. If you put, let's say, $1,000 of FUSD and USDT as liquidity provider, you can issue more out of it. You can issue more FUSD than what you started from. And this is the main advantage, and this is why we think we can relatively easy take over or be bigger than MakerDAO. But also I said that we think that we can be bigger than Tether and Circle. And this is from the same reason, because Tether and Circle, they are more efficient. They are printing money with the collateral, and they are $250 billion in size, but it's still very narrow. It's still only 1% of M2 of the money out there. Also, it makes sense only when there are high interest rates, the model. And again, it's more efficient than MakerDAO, but it's still less efficient than the mechanism that we are doing. So the vision for your question, Ronnie, is to be the biggest stablecoin out there. But this is only the first part, because FUSD as a stablecoin is just one synthetic derivative of the dollar that we can issue. We can easily issue with the same stabilization mechanism of the Feds, also FBTC, FETH, and bring to the market more liquidity in that sense. Let's say in Solana, we can provide liquidity in Bitcoin, BitPeg token, or ETH peg token, and so on. And this is why the vision is huge here. Is that answering your question? You have a
Yes,
follow-up
it
one?
does. Yes, yes. Thank you.
Great. So what I want to say is to talk a little bit about how we are doing it, because this is, at least it's a big vision. I don't know if it sounds a realistic one, or if you buy into it, but at least you have to admit it is a huge one, right? To be the biggest stablecoin issuing mechanism and start from there. So how is it possible? How do we do the fractional reserve under collateral mechanism? And this is due to the bank run mitigation technology. And what I wanted to deep a little bit more about in this talk is how this opportunity exists, how it is even exists. And this is like the thing that I love the most in the Feds is what we are like the gain of opportunity that we have, because we have 40 years of research, of bank run mitigation research that have been done with traditional finance researcher, top ones. And for instance, the biggest one that we are taking information from is the Diamond Divbig model that won the Nobel Prize. But there is also 40 years of other researchers and other mechanisms that we are using. And the amazing part is the researchers are not being used in the traditional finance market. And I think that now I also didn't speak about it with you yet, about how amazing it is, because let's say a green and lean model that we are implementing, which is the sequential access, the turn-based. So they prove mathematically with game theoretical research that if you are doing it the way we are doing it in turn-based mechanism, then we mitigate the bank run. I wanted to talk about is it hasn't been done before. They did it in 2003. Bitcoin and crypto was not exist yet, at least not in practical manner. And they wrote the article for traditional banks, but the possibility or the option to check it or test it or operate it with traditional banks is not exist. They cannot do that. So they can do the theoretical research, but they needed to wait for us, for the Feds, in order to implement it on chain on Arbitrum, like 20 years later, 22 years later, and we are gaining from their research, and they are just prove us that we can do the under collateral or to do the bank run mitigation process. And they didn't predict no crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that, but this is the gain or the opportunity that we are building on.
I have a question regard to the last thing that you spoke. In traditional finance, someone implement that, the green and lean research?
Not as I know of, and I don't think it's possible, because how can you do the turn-based mechanism in traditional finance? So let's say the Green Lean and the Diamond Divbig, they are speaking about a traditional bank like Bank Hapoalim, and people are depositing to the bank, and in order to prevent bank run, they say, Green and Lean say, okay, let's suggest that everyone will know who is depositing or what is the queue, the line of people depositing, and let's have a contract that they accessing the bank one at a time. So do you have any idea how you do it in Citibank or Bank Hapoalim or any traditional bank? I don't think you can. But in the Feds, this is exactly what we are doing. We are doing the bank, which is the liquidity pool, and we are doing the sequential access, and everyone that have the NFT is accessing by the turn, just like Green and Lean suggested. So, but there are attempts to implement or to learn from bank run mitigation research, and not for any reason they won the Nobel Prize. So Diamond Divbig, they suggested the government to give insurance for the cases that there is a bank run, and prevent it by the government giving insurance to depositors. So this is the idea that exists, and the central banks are using in order to mitigate bank runs in traditional finance. But again, it's very limited. There are issues. They cannot implement any idea that exists out there. And the sequential access is not the only one. We have Andelfando, which is American from his background from Canada. He's a Canadian, and he worked in Canada in central banks, and now he's in Miami, and he suggested priority account, another mechanism in order to mitigate bank run. And another point that I don't think any traditional bank have ever implemented in practice, but we can, and we have the plan to implement it in the future.
Yeah, okay, so now you're gonna get the fair question. If any bank, or you said that they cannot check it in real life, okay, only on the blockchain, how you can be assured that it's gonna work? How the mathematical problems get solved if you don't get the model and you don't do the experiment and you don't get any idea how it's really work?
First of all, we are very cautious about it, and this is why we are implementing on-chain with the liquidity slowly. We are not showing off and saying we already saved the world and we already have the bank run mitigation technology that can give us billions of dollars. Let's do it ASAP. No, we are doing it slowly. We are checking it. We're seeing how it behaves, that people like it, that they feel secure about it. We see the Fed's participations are doing it and keeping the peg, and we're going to build it like it is from the bottom up and prove it practically. So this is the approach. One of the there are a lot of conclusions out of what Terra Luna have done, and they lost billions of dollars in their not reliable, proven to be wrong mechanism. But one of them is how they were so cocky about and arrogant about their own model. So regardless the failure, if they have been failed with much less liquidity and much less money, that will be much better, right? But Doc One was very arrogant. We take also the basic principle and the value approach, the opposite approach, and being very modest and answering your question in the we cannot promise anything. This is science, and we are checking it scientifically, but we are moving forward. We're taking the theoretical model and implement it on chain.
I think another difference, the big difference about the solution that you just described right now is the key solution for my case, and this is what I really like the Fed is the decentralization. With Terra Luna, with the central bank, and with all the traditional finance, they just have one big bank that back all others. You don't have any decentralization at all. And if you can speak about it and explain why it's so important that we have some NFT holder that they issue the FUSD and it's really decentralized, is the solution also for CBTC?
Yeah, right. So first of all, let's about just one point to maybe a little bit correct you, or at least I think that Terra Luna was decentralized model because everyone could participate buying Terra and Luna and issuing Terra by burning Luna tokens. So it was a bit decentralized. It's true that the LFG, the group behind it, was centralized, but it's a scale and it's relatively decentralized. It's not like a central bank or a bank. So
Yeah, but
also
what I
the
mean
fact
is about the mechanism that you have only one entity or few entity that they are in charge of the rebalance or that keep the peg.
yeah. Anyway, decentralization is a scale. So for now, for instance, we taking a lot of economic ecosystem. Let's say the 30% APR that we printing each year, or the size of the turns, if it's 8 hours or 4 hours. We are setting it up for now. But as you mentioned, we have the NFT holders, which are maybe like a DAO, kind of a DAO. And this is actually the second thing that I wanted to talk about, how it's a new beautiful DAO structure, the Feds, because in a decentralized landscape, one of the biggest challenge is how participations will participate. So in today DAO's ecosystem, it's mostly votes, right? People should vote with their government's tokens and then make the calls about each of the decisions that I just mentioned. Let's say the interest rate. But we can have a different and nicer and more, we can see already more efficient approach with, again, the turn-based mechanism. So we can see already that people participate in much higher rates of participations. They are taking the turns, they are taking actions each turn, which is amazing. And we can use the same mechanism in order to be even more decentralized than we are now, and making the call through this mechanism. And let's say each participate NFT, each user will signal QE or QT, or signal to increase the rates or to reduce it, or increase the size of the turns, or reduce it, and so on. So this is also something that is going to evolve and will become more and more decentralized, even from the point that we are now. And also now we are obviously much more decentralized than Circle, for instance, that issue USDC, and all the gains and all the mechanism is simply by this centralized entity. And the Feds is not like that. Everyone can buy the NFT token and take place.
So my question is like that. First of all, the Feds, I only learned about that like 1 day ago or 2 days ago. It's not
Mhm.
something easy that you can understand in a minute,
Right,
even someone savvy in crypto, because there's a
right.
lot of mechanisms and game theories and all kind of stuff connected to all of that. For me, the question is, uh, crypto started from Bitcoin as an idea, as a decentralized idea against the financial system that is centralized like crazy. Um, and the code is the king with Bitcoin, so 21 million forever. The miners decide a lot of stuff because they have the power of the network.
Mhm.
But Bitcoin, if we're talking about Bitcoin as an example, in 2011 or 10, 11, 12, no one cares about Bitcoin other than the early adopters. Because there was no use case or there was no people that investing for store of value or for utility. Um, I just want to know if the Feds, what will be a make or break for the Feds? Basically, this is my question.
Yeah. So my passion background is exactly in those questions of monetary policy. So Bitcoin is a lot of things, right? It's as you mentioned, an anti versus the old system, and it's a parallel network to transfer money, and it is a digital gold of store value. So it's a lot of things, but I think that the strange thing about Bitcoin is the mistake, or it's not a mistake, but it's the beautiful mistake of Satoshi. So Satoshi, as I see it, he invented first of all the network, and he thought about it as a payment network. You can see it with his um, early
Yeah,
emails and what he wrote.
peer to peer, the white paper, etc.
Yeah. In the white paper, you can it almost doesn't mention the monetary policy, but again, he mentioned PayPal, for instance, a decentralized PayPal. So it's obviously to make payments, payments in a private and in a free way, right? So. This is one hand, and from the other hand, there is the monetary policy, which can be detached from that. The 4 years having 21 million coins that you mentioned, and so on. So this what gave Bitcoin the token it behavior, right? The behavior of the currency is store of value. You don't want to spend it in shopping IO, right? You don't want to spend the Bitcoin that you have because digital gold. You want to keep it to yourself. You want to keep it for years or decades, or even to give it to your children and your ancestors. So um, and this is driven from the monetary policy. So in order to have payments and have money, um, um, you need a weaker token, right? You need to print more, not to print less, not to held up with your 21 million capped tokens. And this is answering your question about we want to take the, let's say, dollar for now, but other currency later on, let's say Bitcoin as well. And we think that if you want short-term value transfer token that pegged to the Bitcoin value, let's say, so you can have FBTC or FUSD for now that is already live, and you can use it, as a dollar or as Bitcoin. So you want it won't be maybe very smart to keep it for years or decades because it's maybe a little bit riskier, but it's also giving it usage of short-term payment and transfer and making more out of it and more liquidity in the market essence. So this is to answer your question. It's a little bit again complicated, but this is the best that I can do.
The Feds needs user adoption in order to be a big project versus a tiny project, or it's not relying at all at user adoption, etc.
Yeah, this is also a great question, and also I think misconception that a lot of people in the ecosystem held. So you will hear it all the time. What about the adoption? How do you gain traction from users? Why will they want to use your stable coins and not USDC and USDT that already have gained some ground, right? They are already much bigger. But at least on chain, we can see that even without it, user will use the FUSD token or other tokens if they have liquidity. So the liquidity is the biggest and most important part of the adoption, because let's say you are using Uniswap or other AMM or other transfer protocols or cross protocols or bridges or whatever. What you need is liquidity, and when you have liquidity, when you are using it, it's even transparent for you what you are using. So if you have a pool of money, let's say FUSD, USDT, the protocols, the DeFi protocols will use it even without the end user will even need to know about it. Or let's say, let's use another example. Let's use Shopping.io, right? So if you have the protocols using FUSD as a liquidity on-chain token, so you will be able to shop, let's say, with USDC, and then around like behind the curtain, behind the scenes, there will be the swapping and the settlement and so on. So it doesn't matter to the end user what they are using for the short term. For the longer term, as adoption will extend and the time will goes by, and you will see that everything is stable and working well. So you will gain also that part of the market or the utility. But it's not necessary. What is necessary for the start is for the issuers, the NFT holders, the participations to participate and to have faith in their own token and their own supply. And this is the approach that we are taking.
Okay, so last question for me. So if we're talking about, let's say, 10 years from now, what will be a very good scenario for the Feds? Like how it will look like 10 years from now or something like that? Of course, when
Yeah.
we are considering crypto and DeFi and all of those elements getting more adoption, because that's what we see since 2010.
Yeah, it's a similar question to what Ronnie asked before, and I will take a little bit a different approach to answer it. So I'm sure personally that the future will be fractional reserve and bank run mitigation mechanisms all over the place, because you want liquidity and you want it in a capital efficient manner. So the Feds just need to be we need to be the ones and the group that will bring it to the market. This is the Fed's vision and mission, to bring the fractional reserve and the bank run mitigation technology into place. And if we will succeed to do so, what you will see is a lot of tokens like that, which is FUSD or FBTC, FETH, F stocks, let's say F Tesla, and a lot of derivatives all across the ecosystem. You will have it on layer twos, you have it all over the place, and people will be able to use it while the Fed's issuers will back it up. They will provide this liquidity and make sure that the value of those tokens are being kept.
So from your perspective, a scenario like a bank run, when it's actually happened, maybe that will be the biggest or the most important event that can take the Feds from a theory to a practical, and basically to show the DeFi world how the theory can become reality.
That's a good question. If we need to have a bank run in order to show that we are a bank run mitigation, bank run resistance technology, I think that we can prove it even without a bank run. And I cannot explain in depth in this, format and in this length of how long do I have to explain it. But think about that in the model that we have, we can stress test the system locally. So we can take few users in line, few users that hold the NFT, and we can show what happened in a bank run without having the bank run. We can show how they behave, how do they behave without having the whole system stress test and collapse. But also, we are the only ones that saying that our model is built for a bank run. So the recovery mechanism is something that we can see. You can test it theoretically and practically. Yes, if there will be a bank run, so we can show that we can recover and how it operates. But even without it, I think we can prove it.
Yeah, I understand, because a bank run, if it's actually happening and the Feds is proving that their theories are right in actual event, um, it can bring a lot of trust and, let's say, a big stamp about the whole idea of the Feds.
Yeah, I totally agree that the best possible scenario, is when there is an outside event, a general event in the market, let's say a war, or yeah, a war won't be a good scenario for the world, but let's say a turmoil that bring stress to the overall financial system, on chain, off chain, and so on. And you can see that everyone will not have the bank run mitigation technology, and the Feds that we do have it will recover more rapidly and behave in a more stable way. Yeah, so yes, that can be a very nice thing to see.
Okay, so maybe the marketing strategy needs to be to create a bank run event. No, I'm just kidding, but thank you for the answers. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. But we will, what I mentioned before, we will do a stress test locally or in a small scale, and we can do it. We can test the system even without having a whole systematic bank run.
I just want to add something. Arbel start with that he looking at the Fed almost 2 days and he didn't figure it out. So we know this problem with onboarding. It takes some time to understand what we are doing. We simplify that. Part of this life it came from speaking with the user that's been in the group, I think, on the closing group, maybe 2 months, and they didn't understand what we are doing. So we here, you can ask anything about the mechanism, how it's work, and we're here to answer. And to simplify that, we also make some videos and explainer. And I think next week we had 3 spaces. So we're going and we're going to speak about it on X and to explain everything. And it's open EMA, so everyone can ask us. And I want to touch another part that we are speaking about, the adoption and about the distribution. I'm working in the space maybe 7 or 8 years, and I saw a lot of crypto projects that start with a beautiful idea, and they just chase on the money, and they just working on the fundraise. They going and try to raise money through VC, through a lot of ways, but in the end, they don't get to the chance to work on the user or to speak with the user on the solution. So what we are doing at the Fed, it's different because we are already do the solution. We're working with user. We don't chase about VC. We don't fundraise at that moment. And I just want to mention that.
Got it. Thank you for that, Mr. Brown. Just one question. If you need to explain to a 12 years old what the feds are doing, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, man, before of taking this challenge, because it's a huge challenge, I just want to expand the explanation about why it's making sense that it is so hard to explain. Because the Feds is a type of bank license on chain, right? So we need to compare it to a banking license. So I don't think that if you would like thinking or want to open a bank, whatever the restriction whatsoever, if it's in the US or in Cyprus or in Israel, doesn't matter. So it will take you a long time and a lot of effort to even understand what is needed to do so, not to speak about the money. So it makes sense that in order to understand what we are doing in the Feds, it will take time, and Noah is doing a great job in making the ex posts and doing this live stream and so on to explain it, because we want it to be decentralized and because it needed to be decentralized and we need the issuers. But it makes sense that it's taking time to understand what we are doing. That one part of the answer. And for 12 years old, I would say that there are 2 types of users. They are used for money in general, like if they are using the dollars, so there is the government that issue the dollars, and there is the users that are using the dollars. And in the same way, we are doing it on chain. We are printing FUSD, and we are the government in that sense. We are making the rules of how to do it, and we're trying to do it in a safe way in order to be stable. And the other users can use very simply the token, the FUSD token, without any hassles. So I think maybe a smart 12 years old will understand that. And maybe not, according to the silence of the group.
No. Actually, it's clear. It's clear.
All the time. the 12-year-old sleeping right now. Let's don't wake him up.
No, yeah, I understand.
It wasn't a 5 years old. It's a 10 years old. It's 12 years old. They are very smart today with all the access to knowledge, and they know what they are doing.
I will send some update about marketing right now. We're going to do some campaign in Yep market, and we have some campaigns that are already going on. So marketing update at the group. Thank you for being here. We're going to do it, I think, almost every week. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Arbel, and thank you, Ronnie, for your questions, and Mikey for your remark. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.